so naughty that I know that you want to, like, watch a man that has a big dick make love to another woman over you, and that I, as a man, is, like, giving my concept of a man to fight for the right to fight over you. As a woman that likes to watch guys fight over her pussy, I know it's crazy, but I do want to fight over your pussy. I love your pussy. And I know it's naughty, and I would fight any man over the right to fight for your pussy to show that I am tougher than any man else in Kelowna that wants to fight over you. Kind of sexy, right? I really would want to fight any guy over the right to fight to make love to you. It's naughty, I know. And I know that there's guys that might have bigger dicks than mine, but my dick is pretty big. And I will definitely put my penis on the line. The length on the line, the thickness on the line. Over fighting over the right to prove that I'm tougher than any of the guys that wants to fight over your pussy. And I know we are all so naughty. We are all so naughty. I know.
All right, welcome back to the Howard Stern of Pro Wrestling, Monte The Pharaoh, at a 7:30 Thursday show where I'm bringing in the special guest, the OG, the master himself, and I'd say good friend of the show, Sean Oliver. Sean, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. I want to make sure I got your glasses on for you right away. Was that a real Hannibal sound?
That was, see, now people are claiming that, like, that's AI. That is not AI.
Now, when did he leave you that message?
You know what? I should have saw that one coming. No, he did not leave me that message, but a fan had sent me that message, and I find it probably the most hilarious thing I've ever heard in my life. Especially, who uses the word naughty, Sean? Like, I don't even think that's
well.
Part
The
of
thing is,
anymore.
if you're skirting bad language, you would go to naughty. But like, if pussy is the next word coming out of your mouth, why like check any word in favor of naughty? Like, throw, nasty, dirty, but listen, he's got his logic. It obviously works. I'm sure there was a line outside the bedroom door, with that action. And clearly I would have done much better in high school had I not. Monty, I want you to do me a favor. If I knew that was going to be your opening, I mean, maybe use that every week. Clearly you could tell I still watch the show. But if you could have sent me that in text form, where we could have done a reading, we could have done, like, I could have done it as James Earl Jones, like, your naughty pussy is, like, and you could have just thrown a character out, and then I could have done it as, maybe Dame Judi Dench with a naughty pussy.
You know what? I love it, man. But I got to, I don't know. Listen, he's threatened to sue us already, Sean, numerous times. I've gotten emails from him and his lawyers, I guess. But I will.
Can you sue somebody else when you tell them they have a naughty pussy and they just tell everybody else that's listening?
Again, I think people don't realize. I mean, let's talk about, recently what happened to Marty Jannetty. I don't know if you guys covered that yet, right? So on our show, Eddie Mansfield had revealed that Marty had amputated his leg. Again, I thought Eddie cleared that with Marty. Honestly, I did not know that Marty didn't know about it. I had a discussion with Marty about it, but
Oh,
later on, me and Marty spoke about it, and Marty was Marty. Marty was saying that, hey, I could sue you, and I said, I don't think you
for
can.
what? For a
You,
news item?
you
I don't
can't.
think that's
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're a public figure, and it's a news item. And again, it
right.
wasn't a nasty conversation between me and Marty, so it wasn't like that. But Marty's like, through HIPAA laws, I'm like, Marty, you're a public figure. Someone obviously had that picture. It's
If
newsworthy.
Marty's doctor said it, that's a HIPAA issue.
That is correct.
But Dr. Monte clearly is safe. I had my go arounds with Marty too when we produced our breaking kayfabe with him. He actually stood on the table and showed that ankle. Now that was
Really?
years ago. Yeah,
Wow.
that was years ago before any. It was kind of a plea maybe the wrong word, like to WWE, like here's what I fucking did to myself for you, and I can't fix this. So yeah, he I don't know if he broke the leg story on our show, but he talked about it, and then man, the editing job I had to make that a cogent interview for an hour and a half. Like I took pieces from the end and moved them to the front, like just so that when he told a story and it started at like the 5 minute mark, and then we went off the rails, and then he continued to get into 27 minute mark. I just moved it from 27 back to 5 so that the viewer can. He actually called me furious at the condition he was in for the interview, and then kind of went public and said that he had information that I chopped up the interview to make him look bad. To which I texted him and said, Marty, I'd hate to do this to a talent that came on the show, but anytime you want me to air the raw footage, soup to nuts, I'd be happy to do that, and everyone could see how bad I made you look. He did not take me up on the offer. But hopefully, since then, everything's good. I don't have bad feelings with anyone in the business. Even Buff Bagwell called me this year to apologize for the incident that I started off one of my books with, I guess, Kayfabe,
Right.
telling about when he was in a no condition to perform or speak or live, really, when he showed up to do that interview for us.
Well, let me ask you this though, man. Being a wrestler, so Pharaoh's one of Pharaoh's biggest
Where
point.
is Pharaoh?
Pharaoh's working, right? So Pharaoh's
My
got.
last two appearances here, I don't get the benefit.
Well, listen. Wait a minute.
Uh,
That last appearance, I have to apologize. At some point in this whole thing, I thought to myself, Monte the Pharaoh needs some juice. Let's get some tits and ass on this show, right? Because again, you see, these reaction videos that are out there.
so
They're
you had me on?
No, that was part of it. But I brought that chick on, and it was like, what a fucking. You don't even know, Sean.
Oh, wait a minute. There was a co-host. Yes.
Yes. So at some point, I said, we need some tits and ass. That'll help let's
Yeah.
juice the show a little bit.
Sure.
And, I brought her to an event for a signing, and that was the end of it. It was.
Was she a wrestler?
Her claim to fame was she boned Matt Riddle.
Good for her. Now, at no point did Pharaoh marry her, right?
Pharaoh did not marry this one
After
no.
the appearance? All right.
No, he
Okay.
did not.
Okay.
He did
All right.
not marry this one after that appearance. In fact, I think he wasn't on the show because she was on the show at that point. But his big problem is he, growing up a wrestling fan, now that he's had dabs and dibs of going behind the curtain, he's like, it's ruined it for him. Did it ruin it for you?
That's a good question. You know what ruined it? I think when you go pro, no matter what it is, right? Like, let's say you love to finger paint from when you're a child, and you're doing that your entire life. It's your relaxation, whatever it is, your enjoyment, and then at some point, someone comes along and says, hey, I can put these in a gallery and sell them. Let's get a website. The minute it becomes a business, there is an innocence lost. I don't want to make it like we don't have to go into these businesses that we have a passion for, but we do. And in the decision to go pro, your life changes and you're no longer on the court at the park, at the public, park and recreation. It's a different thing. So what did happen is that I began to have to deal with everything like a business. Like people ask me all the time, like people have asked me, like, oh, like sitting with, like, are you ever like, my God, I'm talking to Roddy Piper about 1984. And I'm saying no, because I'm worried about this script. I'm 20 minutes burned camera time, and I'm 5 pages into an 87-page script that Anthony wrote. And that angle over there I'm worried about in that camera. I'm wondering if Anthony's checking that. And the audio, Jesus Christ, Roddy's mic slipped a little bit. And I know he's got to go to a signing with Eric Sims. So I got to have him done by 5. All that's in my head. So there's no time to enjoy anything, ever. So going pro is what takes the magic out of anything. Though there are times, however scant, where I allowed myself to be a fan. And in the interview process, that helped make me and Kayfabe Commentaries the groundbreaking revolutionaries that we were, because I was the fan in that seat. I had to be everybody watching. I couldn't be, the coy host. I had to ask the stuff that was coming to mind as all the fans are watching the interview. So there was like the Roddy interview was one of them, because I was a huge Piper mark as a kid. And so like that was one of the
But let me ask you though, did he let you down seeing that, this guy's just a normal dude who's probably even more fucked up than the rest of us at some point, right?
No, I thought the interview was great, and if you're going to have a Pat Patterson revelation, may it be on our show.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And that he got a little heat from Connecticut for that revelation, but so yeah, he didn't let me down at all. I thought it was a great interview, actually, and he remembered a lot more, because that was always the thing too, like how much are these guys going to remember from these periods?
Right. So, look, man, you know how much respect the show has for you, and anybody that's even watches these type of interviews knows what you have done for the industry. And this is just in this portion. We can go into everything else you've done, between writing books and acting and all this other stuff. But here you are now.
This is like a duel.
You put on a gimmick, so it's like, yeah, we're on.
This is a duel.
You got it.
Let's go.
So now you're in the 2000s, you're moving past video. Now it's a YouTube show, and you're on social media, and you're cutting audio. You know the deal. Everybody knows what's going on. But now everybody and their brother has a podcast, and now you're actually battling for a piece of the pie. How does it feel? Because, again, I'm going to call out guys, right? One being the kid from England. I think that's when I wrote you, right? He's talking shit about you and Nash a little bit. How do these other podcasters, do they bother you? Or could you not even give a shit? It's your business, and who cares about these guys?
No, well, first of all, listen, from an honest perspective, anybody that sets out to take a talent or an interest and not even monetize it, but just to put it out there and try to perfect it and make it your thing, I have respect for. So, the last time I looked, and I actually did it last week, 3.7 million podcasts currently in the country.
Podcasts, not just on a particular subject, just in general.
Podcasts, right. Yeah. Although it does feel like there are 37 million wrestling podcasts.
Actually, I looked that up. There's about 2,300 worldwide.
Okay, so that's not too
and you're not.
But of all the
good.
No, but of all those podcasts, of that number, of that 3.7 million. I don't know the number we are, but like Spotify is it Spotify gives you we're the top 0.5%. Click this is right. Kevin and me. And I'm always comfortable with our place in the world. You could show me graphs all you want that you got this many this month and we got this many this month, whatever. Been on for 4 years, and we went on saying we're never gonna cover wrestling. We have to talk about it. Kevin was a wrestler, but we're never gonna get on and cover some event. You know why? Because what was the number you gave me? 2,300? Because 2,300 other people just said, "Oh, I thought Brock Lesnar retired. Now he's wrestling again." What I'm going to say, you need me to say that? You need Kevin to say that? No. So, and actually we recorded this week's episode and we didn't talk about wrestling once. Not once.
Right.
There's enough angles. There are enough angles that me and Kevin could talk about in the world and in life. And Kev called me. He's like, man, he's like, we're forcing ourselves to watch wrestling. He goes, there's weeks it's not fun. He said, I went home. I was talking to my wife. She's like, the reason I wanted to do this was I liked this guy. And when we worked together, I liked hanging out with this guy. And the thing of the show was it was going to be two guys talking at the bar. And then it became two guys talking at the bar about a show they don't like to watch. So we said, well, fuck this. Let's, Mach 2. Let's just, no big overhaul, but we're going to have fun again. And that's like Rogan, right? MMA, right? Most closely associated with MMA. His podcast isn't popular because he talks about MMA. He has to. He'll liken it to something but that's not his corner of the world. So I think we're gonna continue to build our own corner of the world. We have a very
but think
dedicated
about this.
listenership.
You were smart enough to align yourself, and Jimmy and I speak about this all the time because we're the same way, dude. I can't talk about a theatrics because that's what it is. It's not a sport. About some guy writing a script and trying to predict what's going to happen with some dude writing a script or some woman writing a script. It's lost its luster as far as that goes. When we were kids, we believed it all, whatever. But at this point, it's like, but my point is you were smart enough to align yourself with a Kevin Nash who can speak about on every subject and stay line for line with you. I mean, look, man, I'll be honest with you. If I'll just throw a name out there, a Ted DiBiase in there with you, you're not going to get the same effect. And that's bad on Ted DiBiase, right?
There are very few people that I would do a show like this with because that's exactly the sentiment that I can't fake it. I can sit and if you ask me a question right now about Roman Reigns, I could give you a 2 or 3 sentence answer about how I feel about Roman Reigns in the context of the new, if they're going to do the bloodline stuff again or whatever's happening. But I can't do a show about it. But there are people, Monty, as you know, who not only can do an hour and a half show about it and everything that was on Raw, but impassioned, screaming, yelling about it. And I just don't know. And I can't do that. And Kevin, thank God, is similarly minded to me. His son was the one that was like, you need a podcast, Dad. And Kevin, for a few years would text me like, we got to do a podcast. I'm not doing it with anybody but you. We got to do it. We got to do it. And then, so finally we did. And, people always talk about, I won't accuse myself of it, but there's references to chemistry or whatever that makes someone just want to listen to someone, even if they were talking about the phone book and making fun of the names in the phone book. And I guess Kevin and I have that for a corner of the world.
Well, I also think that with your discussions as a listener of your show, whether me personally or somebody else, we agree with some things, don't agree, but it's an interesting listen and it's food for fodder, which is important. But this goes back to the original start of the question when I spoke about the Romero guy, for example. Are Kevin Scampoli, do you recognize that name?
No.
So if I could share with this, because I actually had talked to your producer years ago. Kevin Scampoli, who's no longer on the air, did a whole shtick of the passing of Kevin's son, which was totally out of taste, right? And
Yeah.
we went off on him on the show, which ended up being a Monte and the Pharaoh feud with this guy and blah, blah, blah. But your producer had wrote me and said he had actually brought him to court or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was a while ago. But it's not even a point about the individuals I'm speaking about. It's a point of how does it feel with someone who has achieved so much? Both you and Nash, right? Nash is, defended this country, basketball player, wrestler. You're a movie actor, a book writer. You were in finance, and now probably one of the greatest. Without you thinking I'm kissing your ass. Podcasters that have.
Please continue.
Yeah, please, yeah. But then when you see these other guys come on, these hacks, doesn't it piss you off at all?
No, because they don't create interference for us because they're not on our runway. I always said if I ever did a podcast, I never want to be the guy that comes on the air that looks like they had to wake the wrestler up and drag him in front of the microphone to talk about wrestling for 2 hours.
Right.
So, and I got the perfect co-host in that Kevin's Kevin loves nothing more than doing absolutely nothing with his time right now. He's 67. He traveled the globe for years, and the grind. It's not, they're not on the bus now, the luxury bus. The grind these guys had in a time with no internet and no cell phones, having to book hotel rooms and all that stuff. So he paid his dues. So he wants to enjoy his time now. But in matters of work and business, Kevin is very fastidious. So I did find a guy that I never have to look like I just woke him up and dragged him on the air.
Which is a great point. How about this? One thing I'm always impressed about is the way you approach business. So with your podcast, I noticed you've gone multiple different ways, right? You're promoting some wrestling organization. What is that? JCW, I think it is, right? You've got codes through all branded, right? Another approach. So you're a multifaceted podcast. We'll even call it a television show at some point, right? Because of the way you're doing. But again, I keep harping on this. How does it make you feel when these women out there are throwing their tits out there and they're watching Monday Night Raw and they're getting 100,000 views and they're literally just staring at the show? I mean, you're into politics. We both are pretty passionate about this country. So is your partner. So is Pharaoh. We'll get into some other stuff, but what does it make you feel
you're
about
going to explain to me how I'm a liberal at some point.
Oh, I will. Well, you know what? I
We'll
really
get to
misspoke, but we'll get to it. But you are kind of, maybe, sort of, but we'll get to it. But how does it make you feel being part of this country where we've dumbed down so much that people will sit there and watch someone watch something for 4 hours?
Yeah.
There's no entertainment. There is nothing.
Well, that didn't happen in the podcast era. The Kardashians are some of the biggest stars in the world, and has anything happened on that show other than watching some bitches eat salad?
I mean, that's right.
Yeah, they're eating gigantic fucking salads, and I watch it for that, to see how big the salad is, and to wonder why I don't end every sentence like a question. And maybe I'd be more important if I spoke like that. And that became, Monty, not a popular show, a phenomenon. A business entity, I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure if you could poke your nose into Ms. Kris Jenner's books, it's wildly impressive. And it's a popular cry now, but no talent required, meaning no one got up and sang a song, no one acted, no one got on a stage and did anything. It was all the celebrity of celebrity, I guess we could call it. So it created a strange niche. And I'll tell you when I knew that entertainment was upside down and basically over. When my kids are 20 and 13 now. So when they were much younger, they could spend hours watching, not playing a video game, watching a gamer screen as they played and yelled and acted ridiculous. And I said, it's completely non-participatory now. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to think. You don't even have to play the game. Used to be, when we were kids and we played video games, we watched a kid play a video game, but we were dying to get the fucking controller because we wanted to play. You don't even have to do that anymore. It's completely passive. So I was like, okay, so these kids are, I mean, we're laughing now because they're kids, but they're going to grow up and their entertainment is going to be completely passive. No thought required. And now with TikTok, I ask kids, how long before you swipe away something that doesn't interest you? How long before you know that this isn't for me? And most of their answers are 2 to 3 seconds. Think about that. Your mind makes a decision whether you're going to further engage with something in 2 seconds. Try to get that kid to sit through a movie that's a little slow starting. We've sat through movies that went a little slow in the beginning, but man, it got good. In the end was blah, blah, blah. That's how we talk. They go, I don't like it. The opening credits. And so that was it. So that's it. That's all it's going to take. Everything that there's no work, there's no thought. All of our news today is a buffet. You go to the part that you want and you eat from that buffet. Our parents watched the news, Walter Cronkite, whoever it was, the nightly news. Then from that 30-minute broadcast, they extrapolated opinions. They argued with people at work or at the bar and said, yeah, well, what about this? They came up with I got this down the middle report, but I know a guy who would probably do this with that info. They did the work. It's done for us now. News is entertainment. It's catered. It's on the buffet. It's given to us, and we just take it and we parrot it back to others. So there's no thought required in so much now. So I have no doubt, Monty, that if I had D cups, and now, as you know, in this world, I can.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
And I watched Raw, that I would have far more viewers on that episode than me and Kevin talking about Martin Short and Hal Holbrook, which I think we're going to name this week's episode because that's who we are. And when everybody else is talking about the tribal chief, we're going to talk about Hal Holbrook.
There you go. Hey, but then can you blame pro wrestling for the state it's in now, right? Because could you imagine the kids nowadays watching Morocco and Backlund in an hour Broadway with 50 rest holds? Forget about it. They get booed out of the arena. Yeah. So, I mean, when these older wrestling fans like ourselves complain, can you blame them? They've got to give what the fans want. They got to give them hot shot wrestling, no long storylines, giving instant gratification, right?
Yeah, and that's why we don't like it. That's why we can't deal with it. And I always say on the show, before I'm going to be critical of something, that I'm out of touch. I say that, and I don't mean that facetiously. I'm not just being forcibly self-deprecating. I am out of touch with what is going to garner a huge rating for WWE. Maybe. Because I could look at something really interesting and go, oh, okay, people are going to talk about that. It happens every once in a while. Very, very rare. But things like where you go, ooh, shoot, maybe? I don't know. Shoot.
But again, also, we don't matter, right? I tell that to Jimmy all the time. We don't matter. We're not going to buy their T-shirts. We're, probably won't go to their events. We're not going to do, so the point of the matter, we're out of the demographic. And I'm just not talking about wrestling. I can't watch basketball anymore. I can't watch baseball anymore. And I'm barely able to watch football at this point.
Regular sports haven't done that to me yet. Well, I'm going to put a little asterisk on that. I was a very big basketball fan in the 80s, right? I was a big Boston fan, Larry Bird and Parrish, and so that era. So I had Jordan, I had Bird, I had Magic, and the game. Listen, the fast break was something special to watch, but it was a half court game. And the thing I loved about Boston was the ball, when the ball moved 11 times and then eventually got a clear, unobstructed 3-point shot. It's like, that's art.
Right.
That's amazing. That's a whole other level. And then, and I hate to like put any shade on Jordan because he's a ridiculously talented athlete. Individual achievement became almost more important than, listen, you could have put my grandmother, your grandmother, Pharaoh's grandmother, whoever Pharaoh marries next, on the court with Jordan, and the Bulls would have probably had nearly as much success as. And but Pippen was great, and Horace Grant and Kenny Anderson, Armstrong. He surrounded himself with great workers, but the heart of the team was Jordan. So individual achievement became the most important thing.
Well, also, you said you're not so down on sports. That was kind of the beginning of smart marketing, right? Being a Knicks fan, I watched Jordan trample us with, on a constant year-to-year basis, as you did as a Celtics fan, even though you guys were pretty shitty back then at that point. But they made sure Jordan made it to the finals. They made sure that their ratings, were going to be where they have to be. And that's why I laugh at the WNBA now, right? They finally have a Caitlin Clark in there. Rig it up. You got to move her on to the, you want ratings, just move it on. I mean, come on, man. We're watching football games where the calls are clearly biased in many cases. And all it takes is one or two calls because these teams play so close to the vest. They're all so talented. I mean, is there a big difference between, I don't know, who won the Super Bowl this year? I forgot who won the Super Bowl.
Who fucking remembers? Was it the Eagles, the Chiefs?
Who knows?
Eagles, Chiefs, Seahawks.
Is there a big difference really between the New York Jets, who I root for, who suck, and the Philadelphia Eagles? Probably not that much. Enough to make a difference that one will win all the time, but not that much as far as talent goes. So if you get a few calls here and there, which we seem to get more and more, I just feel like it's just all bullshit at this point. Politics, sports, everything is bullshit.
Well, first of all, hats off to you for rooting for two New York teams. You're a hometown guy, and I grew up here, but my teams were. I'm a Devils fan, but they were the Cowboys. I mean, I grew up in the '70s in a Cowboy house, so I had no chance. And the Celtics. So, but what did you mentioned? Now the Knicks. I want to go to one thing. If we haven't put everybody to sleep by our sports discussion yet, I'll make it brief. You brought up the Knicks at a time. Let's talk about the era I was talking about. Okay, '90s, right? Well, yeah, Boston was already kind of on the way out, but the '90s Knicks are a great example. They were competitive and down to the wire many times, and you look at the team. I guess built around Patrick Ewing,
right?
Starks, Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley. I mean, that's truly, they're carpenters. All the carpenters loaded their toolboxes and went out to the court, and they all built something every night. Mm-hmm. There was not one person expected to score 67 points on that court. And I don't know that exists like it did anymore.
I don't think it exists like that at all. And I'll go on the record here. The Knicks are going to the NBA Finals. I'm literally rooting against them because
really?
I grew up in the the 80s, 90s Knicks, and you know what? I can't even watch basketball anymore. It's a slop game. And baseball, I mean, you go to a baseball game, Sean, right? You go to sit, enjoy yourself, right? Have a hot dog, have a beer, whatever you like. They rush the game now. They make sure it's done in an hour and a half, 2 hours. And if they go to extra innings, they got people starting on second base. I'm like, I'm done with all this. I'm not playing
because that game is insufferable to sit through. I don't know how anyone watches baseball. I
Guess you're not
played
a
Little
baseball
League
fan.
for two. I played Little League for a year. I played Pop Warner football back when you could do full pads. Now I think it's all flag or whatever if you're 12 or 13. But I played Pop Warner football. I played basketball for 6 years, organized basketball for the town, and baseball 1 year. I stood Xavier McDaniel. Loved Xavier.
Yeah, yeah.
I stood in the outfield, and I said, I'm not playing a sport right now. I'm not engaged in any activity right now. And then what happens? So okay, so the inning is over. You're going to go on offense now, right? You're up. There's 9 motherfuckers you have to wait before you even pick up a bat. It was the art of sitting around. It was horrendous to watch. I went to one live baseball game in my entire life.
One.
I went with my friend in college, Chris Lucas. His father, Ed Lucas, who was blind, was a writer for for Yankees Magazine. And his charity was having a big auction, and Chris is like, I can't take my dad to the stadium. He's got to pick up some stuff for the auction. He's got to get Strawberry to sign some bats and stuff. Could you take him today? I was like, yeah, I guess, whatever. So I take the blind man. I'm leading him on my arm, and he's telling me by memory where to go. He goes, see that elevator over there? I'm like, yeah, do you? And he's like, no, but push the button. We're going to the Loge. So he takes me through the stadium, and I have full access, Monty. Now, I'm not a baseball fan at all. So I go down, and we go to the locker rooms. So we go into the Yankees locker room at Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium. And I'm walking through. He goes, do you see Andy Pettit around? I need to talk to him. I go, Ed, I wouldn't know Andy Pettit if he was blowing me right now. So I don't see. I'm looking for Pettit on the show. The game doesn't start for 4 hours, so nobody's dressed. Wade Boggs' nude ass is right there for me and everybody in the room to enjoy. So but one cool thing, I'm walking down. He's walking me through. He's keep looking for Andy. I'm like, all right, Ed, I'm looking for. He goes, are we at the end of the? He goes, now look to your left. I look to my left. I go, yeah, it's somebody's locker. It's like used clothes. They forgot to wash his clothes, his jersey, and he goes, no, look at the name. It was Thurman Munson.
Wow.
They never, from the last game he played before he was killed, they left his stuff, and it was still in the locker. So I got to see that. So I took a moment and went, oh, yeah, I know the name. So I'm like, okay, that's really cool. He goes, do you see Darryl Strawberry? Now, him I knew because he was being arrested every 11 minutes for snorting coke.
Right.
So I'm like, no, he's not here. He's like, he's probably taking batting practice. Let's go on the field. Okay. So he leads me through the dugout onto the field. I say, I do see him. He's taking. So he's like, wait for him to be done. We don't want to disturb him. I said, sure. So I'm standing on the field of Yankee Stadium, ready to talk to them. And I did take a moment and say, I think this is really cool. I think I'm supposed to think this is really cool. Like, I think this is where Babe Ruth played, maybe? Like, was that the original stadium? Like, the grass? But they're all walking around. They're throwing the ball to each other and batting. I felt like I could just go play. Like, right there. Because it was so nonchalant what was going on around me. And I didn't know these guys. So I was like, we can't play? And like, we can't fuck around a little? He's like, no, we're going to wait. All right, fine. So I call him over. Now, I think I'm going to be cool, right? And I call him Straw. Now, I don't realize the implications when I call him Straw instead of Darryl or Mr. Strawberry, whatever. But he's very nice. He comes over, he signs the bats, whatever, takes some pictures for Ed to sell and everything. But that's my one. And then we go to the press box to watch the game. And I got to go and spend some time. And there was a very famous organist whose name I'm not going to remember, but you probably do. You're probably a Yankees fan, right? You love everything New York.
Well, you know what? If Pharaoh was here, he'd probably name every Yankee from 1920 on. But no, who the fuck? I don't.
Right.
You know.
Right. So the guy playing the organ, you're certainly not going to know yet. So that's my one game. Admittedly, a much cooler one game than most people have, but it was completely lost on me and wasted.
But you're a hockey fan, though.
I am, but I am. I had Devil season tickets, and I loved being in the corner when coming up against the glass. Loved it all, but I have a bit of a tough schedule the last few years, so I can't watch anything. I can give you football. I can give you 17 games, I can't give you 82 games. I can't give you 175 games or whatever they play in baseball. I can barely do the 17 for football. But there are books to write, Monty. There are podcasts to do, et cetera, et cetera.
So let me ask you this: so when you're doing your tours or you're going somewhere, I'm sure you get recognized quite often. How does that make you feel? Do you feel like, well, how does it make you feel? Do you feel like I'm not worthy? Or you feel like, holy shit, I've really accomplished something. I'm glad I made a difference in someone's life.
No, it's like where has this been my whole life? I'm cashing in my tickets at the carnival now. I've been at the fucking carnival, serving a lot of hot dogs here. When it first started to happen a long time ago with Kayfabe Commentaries, now that's a very specific segment of the world.
Right.
Occasionally, like someone would remember me from Law and Order, but that rarely happened. I was the court clerk,
Yeah.
So when the kayfabe stuff got popular and people would recognize me, I was mostly oblivious, and my wife would be. So I would sense someone looking at me, and growing up in the city, I'm like, all right, where's my wallet? Where's my bag? Was my wife holding a bag? All right, we're gonna get fucking jumped because we're walking to the parking lot now. I see these fucking guys looking at me. They're scoping me. It's gonna happen. And then, like my wife's coming out of the bathroom. We're at some amusement park. She's coming out of the bathroom. I'm like, these guys are looking at me. Just wait a minute. I don't want to walk out. It's not safe. She's like, I heard one of them say, yeah, that's him. I was like, oh, so they're not going to kill me. Right, okay. But they didn't talk to me or come over. They're just looking at me. So that was like the disconcerting part of it. The funny thing about it, Monty, is now it's so many weird, different segments of the world. I always expected, because of the wrestling connotation, connection rather, I always expected anyone that has really bad facial hair, breathing from the mouth or drooling is probably going to recognize me. Like I got used to that. But like we were in the Versace store or the Gucci, no, the Versace outlet at Woodbury Commons, and the dude's like helping my daughter with a dress. He's like, your voice is familiar. Do you have a show with Kevin Nash? So like it's places that I don't expect it. So that still throws me a little. And you mentioned about, being happy that people are happy, whatever. I do have to say the one thing that I never get used to, tired of, whatever, is occasionally someone will come up to me. And this used to happen at wrestling conventions a lot. And there'll be a story. They were in bed with a pancreatitis operation or something. And they watched all the U-shoots to get them through it. And that part of it was always cool. When someone thanked me, when they got through a tough time by my entertainment and our entertainment, whether it was the kayfabe videos or now the Kevin stuff. And people come up, Kevin still draws like one of the longest lines at every convention. And I asked him, I was like, do you have any listeners? He's, no matter what city he's in, he goes, dude, 90% of the people come up and say, I love the show. He goes, and a lot of them ask where you are. And I say, why the fuck would I have him here? I was like, as you should say that. They're online to see you. So,
which is, I got to tell you at this point, I mean, a lot of these guys have been around for I mean, how many more fucking autographs does someone need of a Mick Foley? I mean, look, I just don't even get it. I understand with Kevin with the podcast, but some of these other guys, they're the same guys that going to the big event, going to the gathering. It's like, how many autographs does someone need of a wrestler? It makes literally no sense to me whatsoever.
Well, every wrestler can thank Funko and Topps and everybody else that make all these limited edition things because, oh man, I got Nash's signature on those 42 figures. What am I not going to get the 43rd special Scott Hall edition with Outsiders edition with Kev? It's huge. The collector's market,
It's amazing. So let's go into, so one of the things, like in my I'll just use a wrestling terminology. I really shouldn't, but in my shoot life, right? I'm a VP of operations. I do a lot of analytics, right? Been doing that for my career. But one thing I've always respected, people who run their own businesses like yourself. So when I first had met you, I was so impressed by the way you build business models and everything else. So here's what I don't understand. I certainly can understand why you don't like President Trump, and I'm going to ask you to go a little deeper on that. But the question would be, coming out of a time of COVID where every kid got an extra $400 a week to spend on Funko Pops so Kevin Nash could make the money. How do we not like a President Trump, but we support? I'll use Obama because Kevin had put him on his Mount Rushmore last show, but we say Obama did a good job. Like, explain this to me, enlighten me. Where am I off base?
Okay, so you want the $400 check discussion, or you want the Obama discussion?
Whatever you can
I
do
could.
both.
All right,
Do
we can
all
start
you
with
want.
Obama. Obama's the best president of my lifetime because I have voted.
Mm-hmm.
In my presidential voting life, I'd have to count how many that was since I was 18, but I have voted for both parties. Okay, for president, in my lifetime. So,
Which we all
if you
should, by the way. We should try to put the best person in that seat as possible. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, the world's a little different now because we subscribe to a doctrine, and we make the people, some people make the doctrine their identity. So to go against that, even when shit goes really sideways, and people should be going, "Whoa, pump the brakes. This is my party that I love, and you're not doing it justice right now, Holmes." But we don't do that because we've branded the party on ourselves. So to do that is to criticize ourselves for having made that choice. So people are, they've tattooed it and they're going to take it to the grave. I hope it's not as many people as I feel like it is, but I do feel like it is in both parties, by the way.
Absolutely.
So with Obama specifically. So in 2008, I think I was still at Deutsche Bank. I left right around that time. But anyway, so the banks collapsed, the auto industry collapsed, the housing market was gone, the mortgage industry was gone, and the stock market was gone. All basically the nectar of life for a country, they were all gone. And Obama came in and bailed out the banks, which he was criticized by Democrats for, but gave them the IOU and made them pay it back, and they almost all did. I mean, we lost Bear Stearns, some banks went under, but they paid them back. They paid it back, and they were back on their feet. Helped the auto industry get back on their feet because there was a large segment of our middle America. Blah blah blah. I'm not going to go through it all, but in 4 years, within the first term, he had taken a very big ship, which is the United States and all the machinations thereof, and it turned in 4. And the last 4, it began to sail in another direction. I don't know anyone that would have been able to do that. So, in addition to being a voice of positivity, hope, he didn't sell out the country like I think a lot of the extreme. I hate extremists. Let's just say that, right, on both sides. So I think a lot of the extreme left feel that we have to sell out completely the political model, and that's not true. You can still learn to navigate it. A very wise thing that James Carville said, the Ragin' Cajun, Bill Clinton's campaign manager, he said he knew Obama was going to have a tough time when he ran on the platform change. Because he said, if you know Washington ain't going to change, and you're not going to change it. He said the reason Clinton was successful, he knew politics, he knew Washington. He said, I'm not going to change it. He said, but I'm going to make this guy do this. I'm going to talk to this guy do this. And he was going to make it work. So when you come in and say we're going to upend it and change it, okay, problems. And I think a lot of the left, I'm very critical of the two extremists, right? The fascist right and the ridiculous left liberals. They've bounced off each other because they were so diametrically opposed in the last 10 years. And by bouncing off, they strive to run around the world so far from the ideology of the other that they ran around the world, and you know where they landed? They're next to each other. They're the same. They just want to subjugate the opposite people. One, when they don't have an election they like, they destroy the capital. One doesn't like a verdict, they burn a city. They do the same shit. They both want to exclude classes of people, but they're the opposite classes. That's a problem. So I have a problem with both extremes of the spectrum. Don't hang the sins of my father on me, Mr. Left, because I don't live my life that way now. And conversely, please understand that some folks don't have a shot because of who raised them and where they grew up. And you know what? Little help wouldn't hurt everybody. So there's a way to do it without being an extremist douchebag. And that's what I strive to see. The cat that gets up pretty close to the middle, 5-10 degrees in either direction, calls out their own party and calls out the other party, is going to be elected by the largest margin in recent memory, because that guy or gal is like all of us. And we have professional politicians now. So very few are. They're worried about the party nomination, the super PACs. That's where all the power is, of course. It's not in the politicians. It's in the lobbyists and in the money and in the PACs. So they all serve a master. But I'm a capitalist. You talked about that. That word flew around with Eric Sims.
Well, so you can be a bit liberal, not you, just in general. You can be a liberal and be a capitalist. They're not separate from each other. So that's where I basically misspoke. I felt for someone because you are the true meaning of a capitalist, my friend. You have found opportunities, you've taken them, and you've ran with them. You don't care what gets taken down, right? You're going to get what you got to get, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way it should be. But I will ask you this, and I really want your opinion on this, and I'll give you my opinion. And I feel very strongly about this. Whether you're, LeBron James, Leonardo DiCaprio, or Kevin Nash, at what point should someone in that kind of role, unless they decide to get into politics, keep politics out of their entertainment? Right? Go ahead.
Well, all right. Well,
let me just go with this.
Those are three different examples, but
I'll go with this. I would say, and I would think you wouldn't disagree with me, that LeBron James probably has more influence on a 10-year-old than their own father does. Right? I mean, that's been the world, right? Famous people are very powerful. So when you start leveraging someone like a Jimmy Kimmel, for example, leveraging your machine to get your personal politics out there, I personally don't agree with it, but tell me what you think.
All right. So in the Nash example, our show is...
I can't count that, right? That
whatever's on Kevin's mind.
Yes,
so,
that's fine.
Yeah. So I got to go along, and we agree or disagree on whatever topic comes up. But it's his platform. It's where he speaks to people who like to listen to him talk every week. Okay,
sure.
So that's kind of in that. It's a different category. Now Kimmel, listen, you've probably watched late night your entire life, and the person sitting in office is fodder for absolutely every single late night show from Johnny Carson on. Irrespective of political party, Chevy Chase used to do the Gerald Ford falling down all the time on Saturday Night Live. The commander-in-chief, the most powerful person in the world, is going to be parodied and made fun of. So, period.
Comedy.
So that's you've signed up. You've signed up for that, right? So you've signed up for that. So that's the sitting president. So that's the person who's going to be the target, right? There were the old man jokes about Biden. There were the myriad jokes you could make about Trump and his policies, and the kind of reality TV White House that had ensued twice in the last decade. So you're going to have that. Now LeBron. So now this is a more interesting one. One of my favorite it wasn't a PSA, it was actually an ad, maybe for Nike. Charles Barkley, you know the one I'm going to say, right?
Yeah.
In the 90s. I am not your role model.
Yes.
Is what Barkley, his commercial used to be. Now, I think it was a sneaker ad. Somebody will probably flame me in the comments for that, but I thought that was such a brave stance because it would have been so easy for that sneaker company and Charles as a commodity and as a star to enjoy that role of that control. But he was, and he would talk about it in interviews, and he would say, I am not a role model. Your parents and your teachers are your role model. What I do on the court, don't emulate it. If, like if they tell you it's wrong, you shouldn't do it because I'm not. And that still, I think, still exists today. Now, something that I can get on board a little bit with you on is the award show politics, using that as a pulpit. But you have to remember, an award show is not an independent body handing out awards. It is that industry decided to get together and throw a party and blow themselves on TV. That's what it is. They're putting on their own. So it's our gang. It's our gang on a huge scale. So it's their clubhouse. So they use that as a medium to spread a message. There are a lot of tropes in Hollywood that are pretty annoying now, and even in books. When my wife starts a new series and she puts out, she goes, oh, there's this new thing on Hulu or whatever, Netflix or whatever, it was based on a book. And I look at the trailer, I go, okay, hold on. Suburban Housewives in Trouble? It's a husband. It's a straight white husband. He did it. Whatever's happening, he did it. Because he's the only one that's allowed to be a bad guy now. And actually, the last one I watched, Jesus, I wish I could remember the name of it.
You're so right.
Every straight white man in it was devoid of morals in some way. Now listen, if you were the first book turned into TV show that did this, fine. It's an interesting switch up. I don't mind that. It's now become the only way to get your series, your Suburban Housewives in Trouble series greenlit, is just to cut off a white penis somewhere.
That's it.
In it at the end. Annoying as fuck. But that's the trope. That's the trope that the Our Gang clubhouse is riding right now. And guess what, Monty? It only succeeds if it makes money. And people pay for it, stream it, watch it, whatever. So clearly, everyone's not done with that trope, because I just watched it again, where the nice white husband turned out not to be so. And so I was like, but wait a minute. No, the black woman in that show had a problem with her husband. I went, oh no, but she married a white guy.
That's just white. There was a white under 50 male.
Yes. Yes. Cis. And he's cis. What does that mean? You used to get used to Papa cis, didn't you?
Yeah.
Now I'm one. And if it was up to Hollywood, they'd pop me and get rid of me off the planet. I don't have a problem with documentaries or scripted films addressing social ills. I think they have to, or I don't know what's going on in Flint, Michigan, courtesy of a Michael Moore documentary when they were shutting down all the auto plants. So you've got to show that to me. But please don't pander to me. Please. I was having a discussion with a gentleman today, a brother, and we were talking about novelists, some black novelists that we both enjoyed, and some social commentary in the books. And I was saying, remember the time where you could get me to experience that story by just dropping me in it and letting me watch other people live and go, fuck. or identify maybe and go, shit, I felt like that too, and I don't look like those people. The minute it's, when it's preachy and talky and it's in the dialogue, it's like you have come here to make a point, and there's no art in that. That's a pulpit, so that's church. That's not art.
Sean,
Look at me. I'm ready to tattoo a swastika on my arm.
Well, you're not quite there yet, but you might be after some. I'm going to put up some comments again, not putting you online, but it's live.
Yes.
So we'd
Yes.
love
Who's
for you
here?
to answer this. Let's see what we got here. Here's a good one. All right. We got, what is Lark Bark? Am I reading that right? Okay. Lucky Dog. Yeah, both Sean and Nash are total commies. I recall an episode of Click This where Nash was saying people need to stop complaining of gas prices, and they both praise Dems. Response,
Well,
sir.
what's his name? Lark?
It's Lucky Dog. Let's go.
Lucky. All right.
Well, it's Lark to Lucky Dog. So
all right.
Go ahead.
Whatever. LL cool Trump. You didn't watch the show for the past 5 minutes here before you typed that clearly, but would you like to know the difference in the gas prices? It's pretty simple. Everyone was sticking those "I did this" stickers with Biden when gas got high, when the war in the Ukraine broke out. Huge pipelines over there, a lot of oil coming over the entire country. They were paying almost $10 a gallon in England, where Biden's not the president, because of the war in the Ukraine. This, however, that we're experiencing now is directly a result of our activities in Iran. So you want to know the difference? That is the difference. I'm not telling you to take a side, but one president kind of had nothing to do with that. It was a global issue, whereas now we've created a global problem, but we kind of did it. We didn't start the war in Ukraine, but we kind of went in and did this one for these phantom weapons of mass destruction, which we went through in Iraq already, but we're doing it again.
Clint Torres says, I figured these guys were liberals.
Me and you?
I don't think I'm a liberal. I don't think you're not you're somewhat of a liberal.
No, I'm a centrist. I'm a registered Democrat, and I tend, well, certainly more now, to agree with leftist politics, but I don't consider myself a liberal. I mean, you listen to the show for the last 5 minutes. I think I've been very honest about how I feel.
What you are is what I consider myself too, and I'd like other people to be there, is be a responsible American and look at the issues and decipher them to the best of your abilities, and then whatever you decide is the case, you decide is the case. But always understand that you have to listen to the other side. If you don't, you're getting what you're getting now.
But too many people can't, Monty, because it's not on their, it's not the podcast they listen to, it's not the news that they have tuned to, so they don't hear a lot of the other side, and if they hear it, it's discounted out of hand as fake news. We've started that term, fake news. You could just say fake news. Everything's fake news that we don't like. Bad news isn't fake news. It's bad news. So what I started doing, and I talked about this on the air a little bit, I started trying to find, when we were dealing with people on our show that we're having a problem with our politics, but we're not civilized enough to have debate. I always read questions, by the way, from right-wingers who took issue with stuff we said. If it was presented like in a discussion that used to be able to have 20 years ago, like just insults about someone's deceased son, which is where most people who were offended by the politics would go. That doesn't have a place, of course. But one of the things I talked about was I was trying to find a place where I could get news that didn't have spin. And I know all the news say spin-free news. Well, they're all leaning one way or the other. But so I started listening to like the BBC, and I started to try to download apps where the problem was you didn't get a lot of U.S. news, but you got enough world news from other perspectives to kind of start to apply it to what was going on in the U.S. But it was work. I had to seek it out.
Well, would it be fair to say, though, in your mind, with President Trump in office, people seem to care more about politics, right? When his first term, every day in my house, my wife is anti-Trump, right? And I voted for Trump, and she continually tries to convince me how I've done wrong, right? But then once Biden got in the office, politics just stopped. Everybody just stopped talking. Everything was hunky dory, right? And now we're back.
Well, I
I mean,
mean, we're riding a COVID. It was a weird time in the whole world
right.
at that time, and everything became a little skewed. People had a little too much time to be home watching TV in those times and getting their news. It wasn't bite-sized morsels anymore. They were giant hoagies of news, and so it impassioned people in a different way. But I don't. I don't know if I could say people care about politics because I don't see a lot. Well, you'd have to define politics also, right? So I like our social issues politics. I don't know. Maybe our is our national security politics. I guess politics in its boiled down the heart of the term. I think is what our in this country anyway what our elected officials debate, propose, pass, and reject based on their role as a representative of us. That's politics. And today, on both sides, we have a lot of rogue operators who get into politics with a very tattooed agenda, and they're not regular people anymore. We were watching an Abraham Lincoln documentary the other night because whatever we were watching rolled into it, and nobody had the remote, and so when they were talking about him working another job, and they were talking about all the other people vying for Senate seats, and that's how it was. Your role in politics was very much service. You were the blacksmith and the cobbler and the architect, and you did that when you closed the shop. Now it's a profession, and people want to go into politics. So you've got people carrying a lot of baggage, and they're supposed to be representing people, and they're mostly representing themselves.
That's a great point, Sean. How about Charlie Kirk? Do you think his assassination, we could have lost the next great president?
He wouldn't have been great. I think a lot of his beliefs were flawed, antiquated, and certainly not part of a country I would want to be in. However, you could say Charlie Kirk, and the only thing that comes to mind now is the assassination, right? So first, and then maybe people haven't seen the videos and don't know what he stood for or whatever, and and there's a lot of course, the revision is like afterwards. Now people are speaking for what he said rather than going to the actual video of it. He wouldn't have been good for the country or anyone, especially if you're female. And however, what has to come away from that, and Trump with the ear, and all of it, is that this is not a third world fucking nation in South America, and not how we handle our politics. You can throw the word in here too. It's not how we do it. There's a difference between civilized nations and ones that take to a rifle when we don't agree with what's going on, or destroy a building in Washington, or burn down a city.
I think it goes deeper than that, especially with the assassination attempts. I feel like a good amount of people really don't want to work. They want to be a TikTok star, a YouTube star, a Facebook star. And you know what? It's better, better than get a job. Let me assassinate someone and remember my name. Click this.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a leap to take that and to take a life and put your life in. A lot of times the assassins are killed with and risk your own life doing it. I don't know if it's that simple. I
listen.
Away, but
people remember who killed Kennedy, right? That name will last forever, right? That's a whole nother thing.
Well,
I really should have went down that road, but
the whole debate about exactly who was responsible for that.
See,
And
I'm pretty good at this, aren't I?
right.
And
So
Joseph Payne is asking, Sean, do you think Kamala Harris would have been a better choice for President
wish I had
Trump?
more time. I wish I had more time to get to know her. Got about 2 months, and when you're vice president, you don't get a lot of floor time. So I think that the Democratic Party. Can you blame the Democrat? I hate when people do that. I think that decision should have been made well before it was, so people got to know Kamala Harris. Better choice than Trump? Yeah, of course. But her in a slate of. By the way, also we can't not do this. The biggest part of the problem in this country, with two people sitting right here having a civilized discussion, who obviously vote for different people most of the time, is that we only get two choices.
That's a great point.
This two-party system is a fucking problem, because I guarantee you that Monte next to me would not have from the slate of 8 that start, or 10 that start the debates. I bet Monte wouldn't have chosen the one that got chosen every time his party got in. And I'll tell you that I would not have chosen the one that got chosen every time the party I voted for also happened. I greatly wish we had just one or two other options in there to represent issues that were not so starkly opposed and so in service of, again, the masters of these two parties.
Well, here's a bigger issue for you to weigh on. Jeff Gillis says Farrell can't get through an interview without a cigarette.
Well, I smoked for 10 years in the 90s, I guess, like from 25 to like 35. My daughter was about 6 months old. I had my last cigarette in March of 2006, and I haven't had a cigarette in, I guess that's 20 years now, right? I haven't had a cigarette in 20 years. I do have a cigar. I will say, you don't inhale a cigar, so in some way I'm going to cling to this and say that that's okay. But I do have a cigar occasionally. So, but I understand. I feel for you, Pharaoh. Smoking is wonderful. It's, there's the cancer and the death and all that, but smoking is wonderful for a few reasons. First of all, and this is something nobody talks about. People say, I loved smoking. I loved how it felt. You know what I loved? When I was around a bunch of people who were driving me fucking crazy, and I wanted to walk away from the bullshit for 7 minutes, I went, you know what? I'm going to go take a cigarette break. Done. Immediate break. It's hitting an escape hatch. The floor drops out from under you, and you're gone for 7 minutes. And what are you doing for those 7 minutes outside with nobody else, or maybe one other person next to you in front of the office? You're breathing deeply for 7 to 10 minutes. How often do you do that? None throughout the day. You had a built-in excuse to get away from douchebags and go outside and have a meditative moment. I miss that.
Speaking of that, we were talking before the show of our age and everything, and I want to be respectful of your time. And again, thank you for joining the show today. Do you find yourself, as you're getting older, becoming less tolerant for people?
Oh, my God. I'll tell you. I'm not Nash yet, but all right. So all right. Let me back you up a little bit. I came out of COVID thinking I'd be different and thinking the world would be different. I was trapped in Florida for 7 months when they began to shut stuff down, and the kids were going to be out of school for a week. My wife, who needs no excuse to go away, said, "Hey, let's go down to the Florida house for a week. Kids don't have to be back till next week." And I'm hearing it might even be 2 weeks. I said, sure, let's go. So, and in an instant, you couldn't do anything or go anywhere. Except if you were in parts of Florida, you could just kill everybody. But you mostly couldn't do anything. So I was down there. Now, at a certain point, there was the freedom to go back to Jersey, but we're dense here. we're tight, we're populated, and down there's a lot more space. So just from a logical standpoint, why the hell would I, at the risk of getting sick, because I have to be on top of people all the time. So I'm down there for 7 months. Now I figure most people at least knew somebody, maybe they weren't in your family, but knew somebody who died at that time. Maybe they were in compromised health already, but you still don't have to die if you're dealing with something that is manageable. So I thought we would come out of this with a kind of, and I loved the distancing. I was like, we need that anyway. There's no reason you need to be up on me at Target. That you could take a couple of steps back. So I thought we would all just learn to live a different way a little bit. Lasted about 8 seconds when I came back to New Jersey. But that always happens anyway. From when you leave somewhere in a southern area, then you come up here, the light changes, you're waiting to go, and the guy crossing is going to take us and look at you like, what, motherfucker? I'm going to take my time. And you're like, I really want to run you over right now. So, yes. So the intolerance, I need a new hood ornament. The intolerance, I thought would not happen because I was calmer being away from people, being in less high pressure situations. I don't want to say not stressful. COVID was stressful, but less high pressure situations. People were dealing with some serious shit, so they weren't fucking with each other too much at work anymore. They were working remotely, and people extended the leash a little bit working remotely. So I thought people said, okay, everybody had some time to reflect, come back, and I thought I had a shot at it, Monty. And I really would like to be a different person today than I am. And I feel I hear the echo of every grandparent I ever knew in my head, and you're doing the same. And what I want to do, at least if I'm going to hate everybody, that's fine. I just want it not to eat at my gut like it does. I don't want to rot from the inside when I hear people talk and I look at people and I froth at the mouth. I do still wrestle with my anger. Oh, this is a little bit like therapy, isn't it? I do wrestle with my anger a little bit and wish that I didn't go to fireworks quickly. And but that's personal work. And I do think maybe age has a little bit to do with that. The one thing I will tell you, though, is I do feel a slight bit of entitlement where I don't have to do this right now. I've been here 53 years. You've been here, 54 years, you said. I'll shave 5 off and put you over.
I appreciate that. I need that.
I'll give you a rub.
Yeah, thank you.
And so I feel like we've earned a little bit where I don't want to have to deal with that shit. I don't want to have to listen to you right now. You're 21. What are you talking about? I heard a 29-year-old the other day say the following. I'll probably do this for 2 more years and then take an early retirement. Okay. Yeah. No, they weren't a $1 billion stock trader either.
Right.
Oh. It's an interesting concept now, and I blame the millennials entirely, 100%. That what I love about it is my kids hate the millennials too, so they're hated from both ends. If
That's
you're
beautiful.
35, we all hate you, everyone, and we want you to die. So they absolutely have been given a card from some floating committee. There are a lot of floating committees, Monty, now that they don't consult us, but there are dictates handed down. Like when the dictate gets handed down that the word Oriental is not good. Some committee decided that. I wasn't on it. I didn't have a vote, but it was handed down. I agree with you, Brian. But it was handed down when certain words are deemed no longer acceptable. There's about 4 billion people on the planet. When did that vote happen? I wasn't there for it. But the millennials have a card, and it was handed down, that at any moment, when anything's uncomfortable at work, life, you leave.
Yep.
You quit. The grit, can I say, in grinding something out. And maybe your dad used to come home from work, Monty, and hate his fucking boss. And every night he opened a Schlitz and said, that motherfucker, if I had one shot at that guy. You know why Howard Stern got popular? Because on NBC, he hated his fucking bosses. He was the guy who went home, went in the basement, beat off all night, didn't want to deal with his wife or kids, and was going to go back and complain about the people he worked for. He was called Everyman. And everyone identified. He's Hollywood Howie now, and no one knows how to deal with him. But that's why he was popular. Because of that Everyman.
That's why Stone Cold Steve Austin was popular, right? Because he was the everyman.
And the angle of beating the shit out of your boss,
right?
Everyone could. Today, Steve Austin, it would not have gotten a pop when he beat Vince and stomped him in the ring and gave him a stunner. The millennial audience would go, Steve, you should just quit.
You should
call human resources. I think he called you an inappropriate name, and he's mean. He's a mean boss. He yells. Which person? Who had to deal with that? Was that Jimmy Kimmel? No, it wasn't Kimmel. It was Jimmy Fallon. Had to deal with a cadre of people in Hollywood working on a high-pressure, nightly, late-night show driven entirely by ratings in the most competitive industry in the world. And he put pressure on them and wasn't nice all the time.
Mm-hmm.
This is the world we've fallen into. This is a little bit of my part. This is a little bit of my party.
But hold on. I got to ask you about this, right? So again, everybody has a right. You want to be a man, and you're a biological woman. You want to be a man. Be a man. I don't care. Right? Other way around. I don't care. But
shouldn't happen when you're 5. Shouldn't happen when you're 5. Is that where you're going?
But
I'll be with you.
No, this is where I'm going. I'm going like this. Why do I have to share the bathroom with a biological woman? Okay, that's becoming a man. She's still a woman, and it's like, why? Where are my rights? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
You don't have any. Look at yourself. I've watched enough suburban women in trouble movies to know you don't have rights. I'm being facetious, kind of. But however, now the gender thing is very complicated. First of all, the reason it's most complicated to me is I'm not dealing with it right now, currently in my life or with my kids. So I don't know this full spectrum of that. So let me just preface the whole deal by saying that. However, I will tell you that I think the restaurants, public places that got it right were the ones that have 3 doors that say bathroom, bathroom, bathroom. I'll do that. We could do that. We could do that. I think everybody has a right to privacy, regardless of your gender, whether it's one that you were born marked on the birth certificate or otherwise. You deserve your privacy, as do I. So I think we should make a move more towards that. And then the entire argument, and I think a lot of the fire will be taken out of that. And what it ultimately does, I think, is respect everyone's right.
I'm in total agreement. But in a case where a workforce can't have multiple private bathrooms,
we'll work on it. Make more money.
My whole point is have a intergender bathroom, right?
Well, they do it now. Okay, so they have what's called the family bathroom now, right? Which if you need to go in and breastfeed, change a child or whatever, it's one that you have privacy if the kid's having an issue. Yeah. So instead of calling it family bathroom, can you just call it neutral bathroom, whatever you want to call it,
whatever you want to call it,
the bathroom? Yeah,
right.
You can denote another bathroom. That's fine. The place it gets really hairy, and I know everyone's chomping at the bit to get to Jamie Dundee in 4 minutes, but he's on at 9, right?
He's on at 9.
Okay.
Wow, this went fast. Holy shit! Yeah, go ahead. Sean.
The problem that happens is sports. Because the one thing nobody denies on either side of the gender issue, that there's a reason. Nobody's saying Caitlin Clark should play in the NBA. Everyone on all sides of the gender issue says there's a reason there's an NBA and there's a reason there's a WNBA, right? There's a reason that we have a female MMA competition and male. this gets much trickier because at the risk of not wanting to offend, you could put some people in real danger. And I think that I don't think it's what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think it's a social issue. I think it's a safety issue beyond the fairness of the sport. People go to, oh, he could dunk over all the time. It's not that. It's I don't care how much of a badass my daughter is. She's not getting in the room with Mike Tyson.
That's right.
There's a reality to that, and it comes from a place of safety. My 2 cents. I thought we were going to talk about the dick bag. I thought we were going to talk about you shoot, but no, we talked about meaningful things tonight, and I appreciate that because I know my epitaph is going to say how big is Batista's dick. It doesn't matter how many fucking books I put out that were researched for 6 years with 650 footnotes at the back, how many times I've interviewed Harley Race and Bruno Sammartino. How big is Batista's dick is going on.
The most important thing. But on a serious note, Sean Oliver, you are an icon in this business, and you've made a difference. When people say, "Are you in the business?" You, sir, are in the business, and you know what you're exactly what a true American should be like, and I have nothing but respect for you. So, Mr. Oliver, thanks again.
Well, listen, make sure that clip gets shared with the fervent excitement and expediency that the Eric Sims clip was.
That's right. That was a great. And by the way, you didn't grow your mustache as you promised, so that's a whole nother issue.
We'll have to
discuss later. Yeah, it's barely there.
You know what's terrible because it's. I know you want to get to Jamie Dunn. What are you going to talk to him about? Has he been arrested today? His U shoot. Have you seen his U shoot?
I've seen most of your U shoots. Okay. Again, my favorite one is the Piper one because I'm a huge Piper guy, and
that was Timeline. That was Timeline. Yeah.
That was Timeline. When we spoke about that, when he came out with the shit with the Papa, it was like one of the most amazing things ever. I would say in the Monte The Pharaoh library, to compare to the Piper was maybe the Virgil largest
Tony Atlas
conversation.
The Tony. Oh, the what? What was it?
Virgil was it Virgil's big horse cock interview when he talks about his horse cock.
No, that wasn't me. I never did Virgil. I never interviewed Virgil.
Talking in the Monte The Pharaoh library. If I'm going to compare my library
your show,
yours,
I got you.
I would put the Virgil giant cock against the Piper video.
As you should. It should be put against anything. Maybe the next Republican candidate can run against the giant black penis.
Mr. Oliver, be well, sir. Thank you as always.
Yeah. Turn it up. No scripts, no apologies. This is Monte and the Pharaoh. Step into the fire. Yeah, we're breaking all the rules. Voices getting louder. We ain't playing for